Hello, should be live. Hello, hello. I'll just see if anyone joins me for my live for 5 at 5. Accepting and trusting the meant to be end of relationships. There's 2 things I'm going to tell you about this. One, I'm going to begin by telling you why you should accept and trust the meant to be end of relationships. Not just intimate relationships, but all relationships. And 2, I'm going to tell you why you don't accept and trust the meant to be end of relationships. 2 connected, everything's connected. 2 connected issues, aspects, understandings. Let's see if anyone else comes on. If not, you can catch the replay. Okay, I'm just going to jump on because these are really, I don't really have a lot of time when I do these. So, accepting and trusting the meant to be end of relationships. First of all, what you have to understand is there is no such thing as something that's meant to be that isn't. There's no such thing. And this is why acceptance, anything other than acceptance, is resistance to what is. If a relationship has ended, that's how you know it's meant to have ended. There is no other evidence that proves or shows that it should be anything other than what it is. And here's why. Because relationship doesn't matter, and you might be thinking, yeah, well, we made these vows and we made these promises and he said this and she said that and I trusted this. It's all about alignment. A relationship comes together and stays together. You stay in each other's field for as long as there is enough alignment keeping you there. And one of the big aspects of that is compatibility and alignment with values. So it's not just the energetic alignment broken down. These are 2 core aspects of relationships. Do you have the compatibility? Do you have the alignment with the values? Do you have the feminine masculine alignment dynamic? If you have all those, that relationship will most likely maintain alignment. Even though you might go through ups and downs and you might have distractions and you might have some disconnect and some disagreement. However, what's happening with a lot of people is they don't have that alignment. They didn't match the values. They rushed in. They're trying to appease that part of themselves that wants to attach really quickly, and they're missed red flags, and they're looking beyond compatibility and values and thinking that there is enough attraction to hold this relationship together. And if there isn't, and the relationship inevitably moves apart, you can trust that that's how it's meant to be because the alignment is not there. And one of the reasons you don't want to accept that is because you don't want to get real. You don't want to be fucking honest about what has been actually going on in that relationship. Because if you were honest, you would admit that you weren't happy. By the time a relationship comes to some kind of close, that the other person or the person who leaves first has already left, and they've been leaving for quite a while because they've been moving out of the field. And you know how that feels. And if you were really honest, you would look and see that that's not what you were happy with either. And what you're holding on to and imagining should still be together is what was in the past, or your fantasy of what it could be. And we don't want to look at this because we don't want to, part of what's going on for us is that we are making it mean something that it didn't work. We're making it mean that it's something about us, something other than alignment. And there will be aspects about you. Honestly, one of the biggest shifts for me was when I looked back at my last, the breakup, and took ownership of all the places in that relationship where I was out of alignment with truth, and trust and who I am and what that relationship was about. You'll break your own heart in the beginning to see how out of alignment you really are, but you have to see. And this is one of the reasons why you don't let go, because there is something that you're not seeing that you need to see. And for as long as you're holding on to this story, it should have been this way or it's meant to be that way, you're missing how it actually really was. And it's not about blame. It's not about whose fault it was. It's about honestly looking at what was going on in that relationship, what wasn't going on in that relationship. Because here's the thing, no one is obligated to stay with someone they don't love. And some people choose it, some people do that, and it is a choice. And some people think it's too hard, and they have too much shared history, they have too much together, they have too much going on, it's too unsettling, fill in the blank. And I mean, that's their choice. But if you've done this before, you'll know it's quite a painful way to exist if you're not addressing the issues. And this is actually why a lot of relationships can really be turned around, because those aspects where they're out of alignment energetically can be shifted. They can be shifted. But if you're just doing the same, if you're just burying your head in the sand, you're just blaming the other person, you're just so wrapped up in your story of what's going on and what you want and what you need, without actually seeing where the reflection is, where the resonance is, what is it you're projecting into that relationship, and how is the other person going? Because people don't leave relationships that are happy, that are aligned, that where everything is. This is not a skip through the forest. You know, your relationship is going to be one of the most challenging areas for you in bits, because it's going to bring up the shadow inside of you, the unmet aspects of yourself. That's okay. That's exactly what you want. You don't want a relationship that doesn't unearth those things for you, but it's what you do with them. And what happens is people come together, and once the honeymoon period is over and there's a bit of water under the bridge, and what's going on in the relationship, it can get stale or it's too tumultuous or whatever's going on. People don't want to look at that. They don't want to actually deal with it, mostly because they don't know how. And so there is just this kind of resigning to, oh, I'll just have to stick it out, or feel let down and then project my resentment. And then you get these two people, neither of whom is happy. And ultimately, the one who can no longer stand being out of alignment with truth is the one that will leave first. And so if your relationship has come to an end, there is nothing that you can, not accepting that is not accepting what is. It's burying your head in the sand, because you don't have to like it. You don't have to be like jumping for joy, but you have to honestly accept that if it was meant to be something else, it would be. Because there is only what is. You have got to deal with reality. Reality is what's real. Not imagined, not fantasized, not a wish, not a hope, not we were meant to be together forever. It's what's real. And so if you're arguing with what's real and saying this relationship shouldn't have ended, you're completely arguing with reality, but you're also arguing with all the reasons why it should have ended. Because all of those reasons are where it's not in alignment with what it needed to be, or what the other person needed, or what honestly you needed to. The alignment wasn't there. The other part of this that I just want to touch on that was mentioned is when your ex is contacting you or interacting with you, and you're making it mean something else. One, that's part of the story that you're still holding on to of not accepting. And two, you're imprinting your need of attachment and your fear that you've been rejected or abandoned onto the other person. And a lot of the time, what people are actually wanting back is just something to soothe that part of themselves. They want the relationship back so they don't have to be alone, so they don't have to face the truth, so they don't have to start again. It's really not enough. It's not enough. It's certainly not enough for the other person. who clearly wants more, and you should want more too, and you can have more, and so can they, and you can even have it together, because turning around that situation is way easier than you think once you understand where the alignment, and actually there's no such thing as misalignment, there's just alignment with this or alignment with that. So once you understand that, and it's actually much easier than you realize to get a relationship back, because whatever attracted that person and brought that relationship back together there in the first place can easily be resurrected. It's way easier than you think. The real question is, do you really want it? Be honest. Were you satisfied? Did it make your heart sing? Was this really the person that you wanted to be with forever? And it's the same with friendships. You know, you've got to have, you can't lock down frequencies that aren't meant to be there. If people are moving out of your field, you really only have one choice. You allow them to go. That doesn't mean to say that they won't come back into your field. And actually, the quickest way for that to happen is for you to let go. Because whatever you're trying to push against, whatever you're resisting, you're actually just expanding the opposite codes of what that person needs to come back into your field. Because think about where they were at when they first met you. What was going on in their field when they first met you? And now look at what's going on in their field now. So accepting and trusting, it's really the same thing. You can absolutely trust that a relationship that's come to a close in that point in time was meant to. Can't be anything other than what it is, unless it's something else or until it's something else. That doesn't mean that you can't turn it into something else. You absolutely can, if that's what you want. You know the old saying, be careful what you wish for. I've worked with a lot of people who've wanted a person back, and then they get themselves back in alignment with who they really are, and they start getting fucking honest about what they want from a relationship, what their values are, what they need, what they're not willing to compromise on, and they very quickly realize that that person wasn't for them at all anyway, and what they were holding on to was just the fear of being alone or of not being alone. And that's really not enough. That's really not good enough for you, and it's not good enough for another person. And if we trusted ourselves, and when we understand, actually when we trust ourselves, and when we understand that we can control this alignment, because we can control it from the inside, you will stop the nonsense that is not accepting and not trusting that things are as they're meant to be, and that relationships ended exactly when they were meant to, sometimes way longer than they should have. For people that hold on, there is a knowing inside you that you should have let go a long time ago, and maybe the other person feels the same. And actually, by the time you've held on so long, you've killed the polarity so drastically that sometimes it's impossible to get it back, but not always. So accepting and trusting is because there is nothing other than what is. That's what's real. And you're not doing it because you're not being honest, and you're not taking a really good look at what was going on in that relationship, what was going on with you, what was going on with the other person, and being honest about that. And you really, really need that. Not just for yourself, not even just for that relationship should it come together, but for your next relationship. Because truth is a bonding. It's a bonder. The more truth you have in a relationship, the deeper a bond you have with a person, even when those truths are hard. Actually, especially when those truths are hard, because that's how you really get deep into knowing another person. And that's how the other person feels known, feels seen, feels heard, feels understood, regardless of whether you agree or not. And it's the same on the other side. That's how you feel known, you feel understood, you feel heard. When you can speak truth to someone, it is such an exquisite experience. It truly is. And if the relationships that have ended and broken, if they had that truth, if that kind of truth had been in that relationship, things could be different. They still could be different. There is no such thing as never say never, but you have to be honest. And for a lot of people, they're actually just clinging on to a ghost and clinging on to a fantasy and clinging on to not wanting to be alone, and it's not enough. I hope that was helpful. And if you have any comments, you can pop them below, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah.